Hey guys, it's Adrian. Welcome back to my channel. First of all, I'm sorry if I sound a little funny. I have a cold, but that's alright. It's not the end of the world. We're gonna keep going through. So, today I'm here to bring you my March wrap-up. Now, as usual, let's start off with my March TBR check-in. On my TBR, I had 6 books. I actually read 4 of them. 1 of them I finished in February, 3 of them I read this month, and 2 of them I didn't get around to. The 2 books that I didn't end up reading in the month of March were Frankenstein by Dean Koontz and Stealing Snow by Danielle Page. The reason that I didn't end up reading these is because they're both kind of on the darker side, and I read a lot of darker books this month and I hadn't had really great luck with them, so I figured I'd wait to read these until I am in the mood for a more darker read. Even though I only ended up reading 3 out of the 6 books that I read in the month of March, I actually had the best reading month that I think I have ever had. I ended up reading a total of 8.5 books and 2 audiobooks. That is fantastic for me. I don't think I've ever read 10 books plus in a month in my entire life. So let's get started because I got a lot to say about some of these books. I had started off the month wanting to read some fluff like I had mentioned in some of my other videos, so I ended up picking up The Selection by Kiera. This was one of the books that was on my March TBR. I ended up giving this book a 3.5 stars. This is about a girl named America Singer, and America has been drafted to be one of the 35 selected to be able to enter the sort of contest in order to be able to marry the prince. This, I heard, was a lot like The Bachelor, and it indeed was. I enjoyed this book. It was cute and it was fluffy, but I found America Singer to be really annoying. She just annoyed the heck out of me. I could have expected it because I'm not really a Bachelor kind of girl, but I did enjoy the book and it made me want to continue on to the next one. And then because I was already into the series and I was still in the mood for fluff, I ended up picking up book number 2, The Elite by Kiera. This is a continuation of the story, and obviously I can't tell you anything about it without spoiling the first book. What I will say though is that I did not like this book. I found this book to be completely annoying. I only ended up giving it 2.5 stars because I felt like America was whiny. She was more whiny in the first book, and I had hoped that at the end of the first book her character would grow and she would become less whiny in the second book, but she got more whiny and she was complaining that Maxim didn't only have time for her, and then she was kind of doing the same thing as he was. So it was just, I didn't enjoy this one. It frustrated me and I almost didn't continue on with the series. When I started the first Selection book and was enjoying the series, I went ahead and ordered the 3rd one so that I could just binge read the series, but it didn't come in on time, so I had some time to kill. So in that time between, I picked up Every Heart a Doorway by Sanderson McGuire. I've already mentioned this in a couple of my videos. I ended up giving this 2 stars. This is about a school for wayward children, but in actual fact, it's a school for children who are coming back to the real world after stumbling into a magical realm by one way or another. Like I mentioned in a couple of my other videos, I expected this to be magical and whimsical and happy, and it ended up being really dark. Like, some of these magical worlds that they have come from are like those old 80s horror movie kind of things. And while I appreciated the way that the author interpreted magical realms, that they don't always have to be your happy-go-lucky nonsense magical realms like Alice in Wonderland, it was too dark for me. I just couldn't relate to it, and the only one character that I really enjoyed wasn't even in the whole story. So I only gave this 2 stars. I wasn't a big fan. Next up, I picked up The School for Good and Evil by Sunan Chinani. This I did as a read-along with Julie from Pages and Pens, and she participates in the book club called Java and Librarians. I will leave the link to their YouTube page down below where you can check out the live chats. I really enjoyed this book, and I think what made the book the most enjoyable was reading it along with a bunch of people. I've already done a spoiler-free review and spoilery discussion that I'll link up here for you if you want to go check it out. But as an adult, I enjoyed this book. Reading it for a young adult, I didn't enjoy it. I felt that it was very problematic for the middle school age, and so I talked about that in my spoiler part of the discussion. But if I were to rate this as an adult, I would give it a 4 stars because I really enjoyed it. If I were reading it as middle grade, I would have given it a 2 stars. Like I said in my review, reading it from a mom's perspective, I just didn't find this book suitable for most younger children. Obviously, if you're a parent, you should be able to tell what's okay for your kids and what's not okay for your kids, but me reading it as a parent for my children, I wouldn't find it suitable until they were a lot older and more self-secure in who they are as a person. And then I picked up Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 2nd book in the Throne of Glass series, I am assuming that everybody knows what the Throne of Glass series is by now, but if for some reason you missed that whole memo, Throne of Glass is about a girl named Selena, and she's an assassin. She's been imprisoned and captured, but she's released in order to be able to take part in this competition between assassins in order to become the king's champion, and it follows her journey and all that good stuff. I gave this book a 3.5 stars. I liked it, but I found it to be really slow. Like, I think it would have been better if it was a few pages shorter. It was really kind of tropey for me. I liked it, I enjoyed it, and I will definitely be continuing on with the series, but it just wasn't what I had hoped it would be. I'm hoping that the series gets better. I've heard from some people that it does. I've also heard from other people that it gets worse. We'll see. I'm going to pick it up, see how it goes. And then I picked up Lines of Silence by Brian Moore. I've also mentioned this one in a couple of my videos. I did not like this book. Not at all. This was my first ever 1-star rating. And I always love to see other people's opinions, because one of my friends said that she absolutely loved this book, and I just didn't. So it just goes to show you how different we are, and I think that's a beautiful thing, especially about books, because everybody has their own opinions, and we can learn from each other and grow from each other. But I just didn't like this book. The reason that I didn't like this book was because it was slow, but I can handle slow books. A lot of books that I've been reading lately are slow, and I've been learning to appreciate them. But this one went absolutely nowhere. Like, it had this whole scenario, and it just went in circles. I felt like there was no real plot to it. And on top of that, it started off with a man having an affair. And I'm just not cool with that. No cheating, guys. Cheating is just not cool. So he ended up getting away with this affair that he was having, and that was portrayed as being fine, and I don't think that's fine. So that, from the first couple pages, I already wasn't like this book, but I try not to be judgmental. But I didn't like it. Like I said, it went nowhere. It was boring. Not a good book. And then finally, the one time in the mail, it took about 2 weeks, so I started reading this as soon as it came in the mail, and I'm so glad that I did. I almost DNF'd this series because I just didn't like the second book enough. But this book ended up being really great. I gave it a 4.25 stars. It had so much more political intrigue. America finally got that little bit of character growth that I was hoping that she would get. She stopped whining, she made some important decisions, and she just got over herself. And so this book was so much more pleasant to read, so much so that I will be continuing on with the series. I will read the next 2 spin-off books to this trilogy, and I really liked it. So that just goes to show you, don't give up on a series too fast sometimes, because you never know what will happen. And then, after 2 long months, I finally finished The Fiery Cross by Dana Gavilan. I did this one through audiobook, and like I said in my last couple of wrap-up videos, this book was 54 hours long, and it just took me forever. I ended up giving this book a 3 stars, and the reason for that was I didn't really feel like anything happened. I mean, lots of stuff happened, but with the other 4 books that I've read, especially the first 3, I feel like there was a definite point to the book. But now that everybody's settled, I can't really tell you what settled means because it will spoil the whole series for you, but now that everybody's sort of settled, it kind of just follows their lives, which is very interesting, and I did enjoy it, but I just didn't know what the point of the book was. So I'm hoping that the next book will be a little bit better. I'm going to give the series 1 more book, and hopefully it won't just get worse and worse and worse, which I have heard recently, so we'll see. I don't know. I did enjoy it. 3 stars is not a bad rating. It just wasn't as good as the other books. Before I tell you about the next book, I wanted to give you a little bit of background information to explain why I'm reading this particular kind of book. I had to go to the doctor this past month for a checkup because, like I've mentioned before in a couple of my other videos, I have a syndrome that affects my eyes and a few other things in my body. By the way, I've gotten a lot of questions about that recently. If you're interested in me doing a video about that and explaining what it is, let me know down below, because I've been thinking about it anyway for other people that have the same syndrome. But if you're interested, I'll do it. If you're not, I won't, because this is predominantly a booktube channel. But anyway, I had to go to the doctor, and one of the things that he reminded me of is that I need to keep an eye on my blood sugar. It's not high or low or anything right now, but it does have the potential to become that way. And when he said that, it reminded me that for the past couple of years, I've been trying to cut sugar out of my diet anyway, but I haven't really been able to find a way to do it that really fits into my family life. So a friend of mine recommended this book, so I picked it up and I read it, and I found it really interesting. The book that I'm talking about is Trim Healthy Mama by Serene Allison and Pearl Barnett. This was kind of an interesting book. It's not just like a diet plan, because I don't feel that I need to really lose any weight. I'm kind of at a regular old average weight, but I do need to keep track of my blood sugar, and that's what it talked about a lot in this book. And it talked about how to make your eating styles more healthy and to do it in a family way. So what I appreciated about this book versus other weight loss or diet books was it really talked about family life and hormones and just being a woman in general and all that kind of interesting stuff. So besides the fact that it talked about how to eat more healthy, it talked about just being a mom in general and the difficulties that come with it. And what it really focused on was blood sugar and insulin, which is what I need to keep an eye out. So I really enjoyed this. I ended up giving it a 4 stars. So one thing that I will say is one of these two sisters, because it's two sisters that wrote this book, is really like a food supremacist, and I kind of feel like she talks down on you. They balance it out well with the other sister, who is the complete opposite, who is very gracious, but I felt like she could have been a little nicer and holier than thou in a matter of speaking. So like I said, I ended up giving this a 4 stars, and I really enjoyed it. And then today I finished The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This is gonna be a Hulu series, I found out after I started reading this book, and I watched the trailer, and guys, it looks really good. This is a book that's based on biblical principles, very much twisted biblical principles about being able to use a handmaid in order to be able to get pregnant when the wife is not been able to get pregnant. And it's a dystopian read about the society falling apart, basically. I can't really tell you much more about that because, number one, the book is kind of confusing. I did really enjoy it, but it took me a while to kind of catch on, which was purposefully done by the author. And number two, if I tell you any more, it'll just spoil the book. You should read it. It's a really great read. It kind of got me a little paranoid though, because I could totally see something of this nature. Maybe not to this extreme with the handmaids or anything, but definitely the way the society had changed. I could see something like that happening. I gave this book a 4 stars. It was really great, and I can't wait to watch the series. And the last book that I'm currently reading now is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I figured I'd include this one because I am currently 330 pages in, so exactly halfway through the book. And I just want to talk about this a little bit because I love this book. I think it's a fantastic world building book. The only thing is, I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting into it. I did notice that the last 50 pages or so picked up a little bit, so I'm hoping that the rest picks up. But I will say, even if it doesn't pick up, I definitely will be continuing on with the series because I feel like this book is definitely foundation for a lot of things that are going to happen. Because he takes a lot of time to explain the magic and the politics, which I really appreciate. But what I love about the way that he does it is it's not just info dumpy. It's not this works because of this and this works because of this. He does it through experiences, and the experiences are sometimes long and dragged out, but they serve a purpose. It's not just, poof, here's a bunch of information. So I am enjoying this so far. You will hear all of my thoughts in my April wrap-up. Alright guys, those are all the books that I have read in the month of March. Let me know in the comments below which books you've read in the month of March, and if you have a March wrap-up video, please leave it in the comments because I'd love to go check it out. That's it for today guys. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.